There's a scourge happening in women's sports as men are invading, causing damage and trauma to the young female athletes. Now, I know you think you know where I'm going with this. Trans women in women's sports, right? After all, politicians on both sides of the aisle are making a fair bit of noise about it, although the conservatives are definitely more prominent in that regard. And with so many politicians and voters making so much noise about this one issue, it must be absolutely rampant throughout the country, no? Well, here's the thing. Out of all female sports at all levels, trans athletes only make up 0.02% of participants. Now, that's a bit of an obscure number, I know, so how many is that exactly? Well, the NCAA reports that of the 500,000 registered athletes, less than 40 are known to be transgender. So how is it that these trans women are coming into female leagues and absolutely dominating the sport? They're not. That's a made-up fact. In fact, in 2022, the CCES found that there is no evidence that trans women have a performance benefit after 12 months of testosterone suppression. But you always hear people talking about men being the worst in their league, then transitioning and all of a sudden fucking dominating the female league, right? You do hear about it. From people spouting bullshit anecdotes from a friend of mine. Not only are these usually urban legend bullshittery, but even the concept behind it is ludicrous. In fact, Laurel Hubbard, a trans female athlete, competed in the 2020 Summer Olympics, and she didn't even place. This isn't to say trans women are terrible at sports either. They're just regular people. They have no statistical advantage or disadvantage when it comes to other women. Yet for some reason, people believe that a man can be the worst in his league, transition, and then be the best in the women's league. The very fact that they think the worst male athlete is still better than the best female athlete is some all-time high fucking sexist bullshit. The people that spout this nonsense are self-reporting on how little they actually think of women's sports. It's not that they actually care about women's sports, it's that they hate trans people so much that they are instead using women's sports as a bludgeon to attack them. All the while this stays in the conversation and nobody even mentions trans men in sports, for some reason nobody seems to give a shit about that. So if trans women aren't dominating women's sports any more than the average woman, what is the scourge happening that I was talking about in the beginning of the video? Men. It's men. Just regular cisgendered men. Y'all are so fucking concerned about trans women that you aren't even looking at the actual predators in women's sports. Men. UN Women found that 21% of females experienced a form of sexual abuse as a child in sports. 21 fucking percent. That's every fifth female athlete. And according to a study of female sports in Quebec published by the National Library of Medicine, 0.5% of adolescents experienced sexual abuse involving a coach. Do you know how much bigger a number 0.5% is compared to 0.02? It's 20. It's 20 times more. So there's this nationwide outrage over trans women competing in sports that has no factual or statistical basis whatsoever. And all the while, 20 times more female athletes are being sexually abused by their coaches. In fact, there have been 222 convictions in Canada over sexual offences in sports between 1998 and 2018 involving coaches of female leagues. And 213 of those were straight, cisgendered men. So what's the real issue here? And why are so many people concerned about the one that doesn't exist as opposed to the actual one that does? And even if men were claiming to be women just to dominate female leagues, that wouldn't be trans women issues. That's still a cisgendered man issue. But if you're more outraged by a trans woman just trying to participate in sports than the fucking rampant sexual assault happening to our young girls by the actual enemy, cisgendered men, then maybe you don't give a fuck about women's sports at all. You're just looking to put another boot on the neck of an already oppressed group of people, and you're using sexually assaulted girls as the weapon to do it. And that is fucking disgusting.